Because when you thought you've seen it all with the Apapa-led Labour Party faction and the Arabambi spokesperson, and then they come from different angles. Now, they said they submitted about 13 witnesses, and the tribunal, 15 or thereabout, they only took 2 or 3 of those witnesses. I don't know if that's what this meant, by the way. However, let me take it from the angle. First, let's start from how does Obi siphoning the Labour Party money get to the point of using it to help IPOB? How much sense does that make?
Well, first of all, we will look at this from a perspective that for me, you see, this is an important point in the life of this country, and Obi is a key player in this political drama that is ongoing in the country. And of course, we cannot in any way underestimate how much he has used the Labour Party to mobilize the youth and raise political awareness in this country. And for such a person who has achieved this major feat in a very short time that he moved away from the PDP, he is not someone that some individuals in Labour Party should sit down and begin to plan to denigrate. It moves us away completely from very serious national issues, which has to do with this election and the economy at the present time, into things that you begin to see that people seem to have been, I don't know whether they've been paid or they've sold out their conscience and they've left the most important things to talk about. And you are talking about money that was donated for a presidential election. And if the money was donated for the presidential election, I think it is the right of the presidential candidate to have used the money for the purpose for which it was donated. Bringing in IPOB is another dimension entirely. And this is the reason Nigeria will begin to have a lot of problems, because these are like throwing a cog in the wheel of progress. When we are trying to move away from ethnicity and look at nationalism, people always want to attach ethnicity to every issue, to bring the person from that national limelight to demonize him to look like someone that is an ethnic bigot promoting ethnic violence. And that is completely unfair, unjustified, and unnecessary from that faction of Labour Party. If you have a party and there are issues of leadership, I think it should be followed in a very civil manner. If you are the one, if the court affirms that you are the one, then if truly the party is your interest and the nation is your interest, what you should do is to see how you can bring everybody together and say, now that my faction is in charge, to prove that we are better, can we all come together, look at what is at stake, and see how we can fight together for the interest of the country. Meanwhile, people like Abayomi should understand how much the youth of this country and others invested into the so-called Labour Party just for the purpose of wresting Nigeria from the hands of those we believe have not handled it properly over these years. And so these are the issues that should matter to them, and not whether money has been taken to IPOB, which is, of course, very ridiculous.
All right. Now, on the aspect of the $15 million and the 12 billion naira, for instance, most of the donations we know came into the Labour Party was because of Obi. A lot of these donations were made in support, like you said, the obedience, for instance. A lot of them contributed because they saw something in Obi that they felt, oh, this is where they want to go to. Now, however, we don't know this Apapa or Arabambi up until all of this came to bear. But again, you are also a politician. You still serve in the PDP. But let's look at this side by side. How do you think a presidential candidate, let's say Atiku Abubakar, for instance, what is his business with the funds? How the funds are spent in a party, the presidential candidate, how much power do they have to determine what happens and what doesn't happen when it comes to the campaign funds?
Well, the truth is, the mere throwing up of figures, again, is embarrassing. $15 million from where? How do you get to know? In what mechanism did you use to determine that there's a $15 million on one hand and a 12 billion naira on another.
Yeah.
So that again, how did you come up with such figures? Okay, you were not in charge of the party, like you said, and you are just coming in, you are another faction, so this money didn't come through you. Do you have a record of the party's account? Then publish it.
Right.
Let's see the account statement of the party, how the money came in and how much this money is, than throwing up on air humongous figures that is mind-blowing, that can make people start thinking that, oh, if at this level money cannot be properly managed, how will you even give the country to such people? So that's one aspect. The other aspect is the party has its leadership. Of course, a chairman, you have a treasurer, you have financial secretary. They have mechanisms for release of funds. A presidential candidate definitely has no hand in how those monies are released, if these monies are paid into the party account. But I'm also aware that there's also a campaign organization. The campaign structure is directly under the purview of the director of the campaign, which of course will take directive from the presidential candidate. So the party funds are managed differently, and then campaign funds are also managed differently. So whichever way, the main issue is, what is the motive behind these people who are spawning out this kind of issues in our country, when we should be focused on the election that has been done, and of course the judgment that has been so given, and the state of the nation. Because as at today, human beings are eating dog food in this country, and we can't tell what direction we are going. These are the issues that people should be looking at. How do we come together and battle the issue of economy? Is the current leadership, has it been legitimized eventually? And what will be done if this becomes the case? And what can Nigerians do to just put their country back in their hands? Because that was the mantra that most of the parties came, that, well, let's take back our country. Right now, instead of taking it back, the country is being taken very much far away from our reach.